Orndorff, host of Ask Dr. Love, the #1 relationship advice show in America, brought to you by Membrace Life, the #1 vaginal moisture supplement. If you're scared to stick your toe back in the dating pool, or your relationships are rocky, or your sex life is sagging, have no fear. Dr. Love is here. I'm a #1 best-selling author with 40 years in the love trenches. Tune in to Ask Dr. Love Tuesdays, 7 to 8 a.m. and tune up all your relationships.
The caring staff at Mac Flavor Ingredients reminds everyone to please take the opportunity to give blood. By doing so, you may save the life of a friend, child, elderly person, surgery patient, or an accident victim. So give blood. It's safe, simple, and saves lives. This important reminder is a courtesy of Mac Flavor Ingredients in Riverside, where they care about the safety and welfare of our community. Be a silent hero, and if you can, give the gift of life. Give blood.
This segment is sponsored by PressPrint, Southern California's best full-service union printer and mail house. They offer the lowest prices around with unmatched service and reliability and free delivery throughout SoCal. PressPrint can print anything from letterhead, business cards, and campaign literature to mailers of any size, lawn signs, banners, door hangers, or just about anything you might want. PressPrint promises to save money for you, your business, or your campaign. If you'd like to learn more, contact Mike Krumbrand at PressPrint 714-399-8708. Get the union bug.
Miss your favorite show? Download the podcast at kcaaradio.com.
KCAA now presents Crossroads. KCAA now presents Crossroads, a program in the public interest, bringing you the issues you need to hear about here in our community. Now here's your host, Mark Westwood.
All right, there we go. Nothing like not being on the air. Sounding oh so professional. Okay, so we'll start this again. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. This is Mark Westwood. And we are on Community Crossroads the day after Election Day on KCAA, NBC News Radio, 102.3, 106.5, and 1050 AM. And I'm back with you this afternoon after a full night last night of election night coverage. It was pretty spectacular, I got to tell you. Maybe not so spectacular. Not a whole lot of, well, what can I say? Surprises, but they were there. They were there a little bit here and there. And we're going to be joined by Eric Bauman shortly. And Eric,
no, I'm here. I'm here, brother.
I haven't introduced you yet. Shh. We're going to be joined by Eric Bauman shortly. Now we'll introduce Eric Bauman, the host of the Uncommon Democrat on KCA.
Uncommon Sense.
And Common Sense Democrat. See, you got me all flustered. I was talking. Okay, hello, Eric. Good to have you on the air with us after the day after election. And Eric would have been with us last night, but he had other engagements that were more pressing to him, so we understand that. And I won't tell people what you were doing, but maybe you would want to say. I don't know. But he was...
I hope you don't sound over the air. You're kind of broken up for me, so I hope you don't sound that way.
Yeah, I might be
over
pegging
the
out.
airwaves.
I might be pegging out.
Better have Professor Sam there check and make sure you're coming out clear.
Check the volume level on the yeah. Okay, there we go. Better.
I can barely hear you for that matter.
Now you can barely hear me? How is my voice on the main console? Sounds good? Sounds good here too? Okay, well, I think it's sounding better now.
All right, well, if you say so. I'm maxed on my volume, and I'm having trouble, but that's okay. I'll just fake it. Whatever I'll pretend I know
on
what
my
you're
headsets
saying.
too. I don't know why. Maybe turn the volume up just a little bit more. There we go. there's just a nice little medium right there. Can you hear me better now? Sam's new at this, you know.
Sure. If you say so.
Okay, it's better. It's much.
You
better.
know, ladies and gentlemen, I love joining you, and I like you. And I'd like as many of you as would like to stay on at 3:00 with me for my Uncommon Sense Democrat show. I have an interesting show planned. Mark is welcome to stay for the first half hour and join my guests. But you know, Mark, I don't know if there were a lot of surprises in yesterday's election here in California, but there were a few, and it was kind of rocking and rolling how things went. From what I can tell, not being exactly an expert in San Bernardino and Riverside, it looks like it mostly came out the way people might have expected it. I'd like to hear your take first on the IE and how you think those went.
Well, first of all, the big disappointment to me wasn't the election results as much as that the voters didn't turn out. And you know, when we have a mayor, and the election night results are decided on 8,536 people out of a city of 267,000 people, you know.
Holy day.
Yeah, exactly.
Seriously?
Seriously. The total ballots cast.
So what is that, like 2%?
Less than that. Less than that. Anyway, it's so abysmal I don't even want to do the math on it. But it's bad.
But
you know.
But you don't know how much is outstanding, right? I mean, you know, in terms of late vote by mail ballots that can come in legally until Friday.
Right. So it'll be a little better. I don't know if we're going to have thousands more though, and it would really take thousands
probably
more
not
to make it, you know, seem kind of better. I mean, here's a city that's in dangerous peril and trouble that really needs a good mayor and council, and you know the council seats were even worse. But 8,536 total votes in the city of San Bernardino. The top vote getter was Helen Tran, a former human resources officer with the city of San Bernardino. She got 3,444 votes. And then after that was a recalled city attorney by the name of Jim Penman, who got 1,781 votes only. He's the second place, so there's a top two there. And then the current mayor, John Valdivia, was third place, but the difference between the second and third place literally is less than 200 votes. So your vote does count, especially when people don't vote. And
anybody who by now has not figured out that every vote counts, when we look at these elections, the elections, not just what we're seeing here in the Inland Empire and frankly in Los Angeles, but that we're seeing all across the country. So many of these races are coming down to a whisper, to a hair's edge, and with all that's going on, and with as much as is aggravating people, doesn't matter whether you're, you know, a Democrat like I am, or whether you're a conservative. I mean, people are just generally unhappy about a lot of things, and that's all legitimate, right? Because this is a chaotic time in America.
Yeah.
And frankly, even in California, where we have things that are much better than in most places.
Well,
and when you have races that are coming down to 27 votes, you know, I was looking at one race that was a county-wide vote, not in San Bernardino, but in another county. 127 votes separate two candidates. There could well be that many votes still come in between now and Friday at 5 p.m. because, you know, ladies and gentlemen, in case you don't remember, as long as it's postmarked by Tuesday, it has until Friday to come in.
Right. And, let me tell you, it gets even worse in the council races. 791 total votes in Ward 1. The winner got 434 votes, and and 54%. So there will not be a runoff on that. The loser got let me see, 355 votes. 355 votes, or 44% of the vote, and the difference between the winner and the loser is about less than 100 votes. Less than 100 votes. And the total number of votes in Ward 1, 791. And then we get down to Ward 2. That was 797 votes. That was a doorbuster there. 797 votes. The top voter getter was Terry Elliott. Terry Elliott, who beat the current incumbent. She beat the incumbent, Sandra Ibarra, 401 to 366. So, yeah.
Hey.
So 2 incumbents lost.
But you know what? This is okay. There's a lot of different reasons this is happening, Mark. Part of it is the frustration that people feel about whether or not government is serving them. Part of it is because they're tired of election after election after election.
Right.
And part of it is because they just don't give a damn anymore.
Exactly.
Because it doesn't seem to make a difference to them. And they vote for change and they don't necessarily get change. And that works in both directions, because if you're voting because you're looking for conservative change, or if you're voting because you're looking for more liberal change, either way, you're still voting for change, right? I mean,
yeah, it used to be.
It doesn't matter. You're still voting for change.
It used to be government for the people, by the people. Now it's government on the people. And people are upset about that. But not voting and having no government is far worse than having, no voice. The district attorney in San Bernardino County, got elected with 27,217 votes. That's countywide. Now we're talking millions of people. I can't even, I'd have to get my calculator out and go to, 6 or 7 in the negative digits of a percent to tell you, how abysmal this.
I mean, I'm looking at Mark. I'm looking at the race between Kurt Hagman and Connie Leyva. Connie Leyva, an incumbent member of the California State Senate.
Right.
And Kurt Hagman, who I guess is a current member of the Board of Soups in San Bernardino. And the vote was 56% to 36% roughly. But the entire totality of the votes is 20,000 votes.
20,609, yeah. But, you're right. You're right. It's just, I don't know whether people were so turned off by all the gun violence that they wanted to vote for candidates that, would support gun safety or women's right to choose or whatever, and just didn't know which candidates those were and didn't turn out to vote, or they were so turned off all the coverage lately, they just walked away from the government. It seems like that's what's happened here. Because we had people vote, but you're right. The totality, it's being decided by literally in the city of San Bernardino by dozens of votes, and in the county of San Bernardino by hundreds of votes, when you got millions of people living in San Bernardino County and, over 250,000 people living in San Bernardino.
Right. Well, look, I look at the mayor's race in the city of L.A., and in a city that has, I don't know, some rough plus or minus 4 million people, what separates the top 2 vote getters who are going into a runoff is, a few thousand votes out of what could potentially be millions of votes. Right. And I mean, look, here's the worst part about this is none of this is good for democracy, right?
Right.
Because ultimately, when people don't vote and a small group of likely more activist people do vote and do make the selections, it further twists and tilts the electorate from where it normally would be. Mm-hmm. And I don't think this is good for democracy, but I think it starts off with, and I mean, you've heard me tell this story before when you've been on my show. There used to be a civics education that every kid got, and in the course of their education, they learned about civics. They learned about how to be a good citizen. They learned about the importance of voting, and their parents used to take them to the polls with them. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't happen anymore. So when you look at, even though technically speaking of registered voters, right? Technically speaking of registered voters, voters under the age of, I'm actually, if you give me 1 second, I'll pull the stat up, so I know what I'm talking about, which would be amazing in and of itself. But, voters under the age of 35 are the largest percentage of voters. Not of who actually votes, but of registered voters. And yet, who are the largest percentage of people who vote? People who are over the age, or people who are over the age of 50, by more than 2 to 1, maybe 3 to 1, are the ones who vote. And so it's all skewed. So if you're a young person and you're already turned off because you sort of feel like your voice is not heard, it only makes it worse by far and above. So here, I have the percentages that finally decided to pop itself up. There are 5,200,000 voters, and this is California, statewide. There are 5,200,000 voters who are over the age of 65. There are 5,800,000 who are 18 to 34. Now, dig this. As of the end of yesterday, 38% of the people who voted were over 65. 7% of the people who voted were in the 18 to 34 category. So if you're a college student and you're wondering why they're not helping you, because their interest is Social Security and Medicare and, things that take care of people their age. But having said all of that, there were a few surprises. And for me, if you don't mind me just raising, I'll raise one raise in particular as a starting point. Our insurance commissioner, Ricardo Lara, faced a very serious challenge from another Democrat. He's a Democrat, and he faced a very serious challenge from another Democrat, a guy named Mark Levine, who is an assembly member from Northern California. And Mark Levine had more than 4 times as much money as the incumbent insurance commissioner did. Now listen to the vote count between the two of them, Mark. Lara, the incumbent, got 1.2 million votes. Mark Levine got about 550,000 votes. Even though he outspent Lara by, 3-1, because he had the money. He was on TV. And so, in the category of what surprised you, Eric, that's one that surprised me because I thought Lara was in trouble. Now, they still have a runoff because Lara only got 37% total, but
I think I get something.
Still,
just listening to you.
That number surprised me.
I think I get something just listening to you just now. And that is out in San Bernardino County, the candidates don't really spend money on TV at all. They're not spending money on radio, but they're relying only on mailers because their consultants all come from print houses and sort houses. And unfortunately, because that happens, people get this stuff in the mail and they throw it out with the pizza coupons and the junk mail for, building your cabinets in your closet. And so they don't pay attention that there's an election. But you're talking millions, or 1.2 and 500,000, that's approaching 2 million people. That's an okay, healthy number. It's not as good as it should be, but it's better than what we've got out here, so abysmally low, where, like in the 47th Assembly District, which is not quite similar, but similar to the 63rd that I ran in, and I lost, and I got 111,000 votes. I remember that. And, all total, there were 54,000 votes between all the candidates in that area now. Well, it's because they're not spending their money right. And they're not spending money like the mayor candidate against Karen Bass spent in L.A. Let's talk about the L.A. County mayor race. We have Rick Caruso against Karen Bass, and then Kevin De Leon, who, was down there, abysmal 7% of the vote, and then the other two divvied up the vote in the 30s. They spent, I don't know how many millions of dollars on that race. And that turned out...
Well, it's easy to thumbnail it this way, Mark. Caruso spent $34 million. Karen Bass probably spent less than $2 million.
Yeah.
And yet, she's 3% behind him in the primary election.
Right.
And in the general election, you can bet that every single union and every single organization that is oriented towards Democrats is going to suddenly appear with millions of dollars for her. Because even though Caruso is today registered as a Democrat, this was one of the, I don't even know what word to use to describe, but I would say, my audience is used to hearing me use, excuse me.
Yeah.
My audience is used to hearing me use Yiddish words. It's chutzpahdik. It takes a lot of nerve. Rick Caruso was a Republican his entire life. He has contributed millions and millions of dollars to Republicans. Now, he's a perfectly nice guy, superficially. Perfectly nice guy. But the reality is, he has a long history of being anti-choice. I've never heard anybody say that he was anti-gay, so I don't know one way or the other. Bass, why I happen to have known, it's kind of a fluke of nature. She used to be a physician's assistant. She worked in the emergency department at Harbor General Hospital. I believe it was Harbor General Hospital, might have been King. And I used to occasionally work there as an emergency room nurse. And so I knew her from there, going back all those years. And Karen, was, besides a community leader, besides somebody who started an organization designed to, help people who had problems with crack and other drugs and what have you, then got elected to the assembly, became one of the first women ever elected speaker, then went to Congress, and I think she's been in Congress 6 terms. She's always been a Democrat. She's a traditional, she's a traditional liberal Democrat. She's not a hard lefty, but she's a traditional liberal Democrat. The reality is the hard lefty Democrats all voted for Kevin DeLeon. Kevin DeLeon's a friend of mine. I wished him well for his campaign. I didn't endorse because I had 2 friends running. But what does it take to be a Republican your whole life, change your registration, because you're planning eventually to run for office, you become an independent 10 years ago, and then just before you run for mayor of L.A., months before, literally a couple of months before, you become a Democrat. In a city where 75% of the voters are Democrats.
Yeah, did you suddenly have a catharsis and your values changed that broadly?
Well, no, but it's cynical. It is just cynical.
Mm-hmm.
And personally, that aggravates the hell out of me. Okay, I don't care if people change their voter registration. In fact, I welcome it, and I often fought against and push back against people who criticize folks who change their registration.
Mm-hmm.
Because it seems to me that if over time you learn or you absorb the message or your way of thinking changes, welcome aboard, brother or sister. Right? That's what we wish for. And it's
but it's rare. It's so rare. And I've had
but a lot of times it's a phony.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the problem. I don't know if you're watching the clock. I don't know if you have to take a break at the
We'll
bottom
take
of
a
the
break
hour
at the bottom of the hour.
So I know I would normally be taking a break, but just
that's what we're going to do. I was just getting there. Sam's sitting down again here. All right, we are going to take a break, so since you brought it up. Great, thank you very much. And before the music gets too loud under my voice, thanks, Eric. Give me about 3 minutes, and we'll be back, folks. We got to take care of business, pay some bills. KCAA, 1050 AM, 106.5, and 102.3 FM with Community Crossroads, Mark Westwood and Eric Bauman. We'll be right back after this.
Hi, it's Dr. Jamie Turndorf, host of Ask Dr. Love, the #1 relationship advice show in America, brought to you by Membrace Life, the #1 vaginal moisture supplement. If you're scared to stick your toe back in the dating pool, or your relationships are rocky, or your sex life is sagging, have no fear. Dr. Love is here. I'm a #1 best-selling author with 40 years in the love trenches. Tune in to Ask Dr. Love Tuesdays, 7 to 8 a.m., and tune up all your relationships.
The caring staff at Mac Flavor Ingredients reminds everyone to please take the opportunity to give blood. By doing so, you may save the life of a friend, child, elderly person, surgery patient, or an accident victim. So give blood. It's safe, simple, and saves lives. This important reminder is a courtesy of Mac Flavor Ingredients in Riverside, where they care about the safety and welfare of our community. Be a silent hero, and if you can, give the gift of life. Give blood.
This segment is sponsored by Press Print, Southern California's best full-service union printer and mail house. They offer the lowest prices around with unmatched service and reliability and free delivery throughout SoCal. Press Print can print anything from letterhead, business cards, and campaign literature to mailers of any size, lawn signs, banners, door hangers, or just about anything you might want. Press Print promises to save money for you, your business, or your campaign. If you'd like to learn more, contact Mike Kroonbrand at Pressprint 714-399-8708. Get the union bug.
Now, here's a new concept: digital network advertising, where businesses display your ad inside their building. If a picture's worth 1,000 words, your company is going to thrive with digital network advertising. Choose your marketing sites or jump on the DNA system and advertise with all participants. Your business ad or logo is rotated multiple times an hour inside local businesses where people will discover your company. Digital network advertising, DNA, a novel way to be seen and remembered. Digital network advertising with networks in Redlands and Yucaipa. Call in the 909 area 222-9293 for introductory pricing. That's 909-222-9293 for digital network advertising. One last time, digital network advertising, 909-222-9293.
With 60 years of fascinating facts, this is the man from yesterday. Back in time, this time to 1966, it looks like Michelle Phillips is back with the Mamas and Papas after being fired in June. Jill Gibson had taken Michelle Phillips's place, but it wasn't the same. In 1978, Joan Crawford's adopted daughter, Christina, is about to release a book describing her mom's wild outbursts and beatings. Look for the book Mommy Dearest in November.
I want to know, why did you adopt me? Maybe I did it for a little extra publicity.
And from this time in 1975, newcomer Christy Brinkley is seen on the cover of Glamour magazine for September here in 1975. Now, Christy Brinkley's only been around a couple of years, but she's getting noticed. A few years later, many remember Christy Brinkley's appearance in Billy Joel's music video, manfromyesterday.com.
Miss your favorite show? Download the podcast at KCAAradio.com.
KCAA, 1050 AM, 106.5 and 102.3 FM. Mark Westwood, live and in person from the NBC News Center, Radio News Center, here in Redlands, California, with my friend and associate, Eric Bauman. How are you, Eric? Are you back? There we are. I hear you clicking. Hello, Eric.
Oh, I'm here with you, but man, I can't hear a word you're saying. I had no problem hearing the commercials, but I'm really having trouble hearing you.
Really? Okay. Well, we'll try it again here. Can you hear me better now?
And I'm here. This is Chris.
Oh, Chris Robles is here. Okay, Chris Robles, the former chair of the San Bernardino Democratic Party and a political aficionado. Hello there, Chris. Good to have you too.
Thank
just
you.
Jumped on the line, and we appreciate that.
Mr. Robles.
Greetings to all, and greetings to our listeners out there. We're recapping the election results, and we began the hour talking about the abysmal turnout in San Bernardino, with the mayor being elected, not being elected, but two top primary contenders for mayor in November being elected with less than 10,000 votes out of a city of 267,000. And we're just going through the state results. We're going to talk about some national results here in just a minute. Statewide, no surprises. Gavin Newsom performed extraordinarily well again, and his chosen Republican contender only came up with, correct me if I'm wrong, last I looked, 15% of the vote. Gavin had over 60% of the vote. So, and all the way down through the statewide primary for the constitutional officers, Democrats bested everybody. So, not much is going to change in California. With what we have already, Secretary of State Weber is going to probably cruise into re-election. Of course, Gavin Newsom's going to cruise into re-election. Elena Kounalakis, pardon me. Eric, do you know how to pronounce that name? We were having fun with that name last night. It's a very difficult name to pronounce.
Which one are we talking about?
Elena Kounalakis, the lieutenant governor. The current lieutenant governor. Kounalakis, all right.
Kounalakis.
Sounds like a good Greek meal there. Kounalakis. Let's engage and have some Kounalakis.
I don't want to tell you what it sounds like by me, but I don't want to get you guys in trouble. We're on terrestrial airwaves here. We're not on FM. We're not just on FM.
Yeah. Well,
we're not leading on Sirius.
Maybe she should get a short URL or a tiny URL, like just call herself Kuna or something like that. But she did well anyway, nonetheless. And then Bob Bonta did well. Laura did well.
Rob Bonta did better than expected because he was facing a stern challenge.
Yep.
Stern challenge.
Yep.
And he did. I'll bring up the latest numbers because while like LA doesn't update again until Friday. Give me 1 second to just get back to that right.
And the second largest city, while you're looking that up, in Long Beach in Los Angeles County, Robert Garcia fared fairly well.
Ooh.
Oh, that was a hard race.
Yeah.
Man, that was a great outcome, but what a surprise outcome.
Yeah.
Everybody thought that was going to be. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Right. Oh, no, my apologies. Yeah, I actually looked at that new district, and I looked at the numbers before the rate, after the two announced, right, Garcia and the two Garcias. But the majority of the turnout of voters is in the Long Beach area, not where Garcia's known.
Mm-hmm.
So it just confirmed.
Well, you don't say not where Garcia. Don't say where not where Garcia. Right. No, because
Christina.
They're both Garcia. So,
you're right. No, Christine. Go ahead.
But look, it was that. This was, this was heralded. If you were following the returns of the absentee ballots, this was heralded by the fact that in the Long Beach segment, I'm saying this poorly now, in the Long Beach segment of the district, it represented more than 55% of the returns of the ballots. And that was already a signal. And here's the thing. All she really used against him, she used primarily two things against him, at least in her general campaign. One was that 13 years ago, he used to be a Republican. And yes, it's true, because when he first ran for city council of Long Beach, and he had already become a Democrat, I spent $100,000 against him to try to smack him down. And I became acquainted with him and became friends with him subsequently. She, on the other hand, is this vitriolic lefty. The other thing she used against him is that, oh my God, are you ready for this, guys? I want you to sit down.
I'm already sitting down.
He's business friendly.
Oh my God!
He's the mayor. He's the mayor of a city with the second largest port in California, and he's business friendly. How could he do that? How could he be business friendly? And that's what he used against her.
Yeah.
And in her history, she called former Assembly Speaker John Perez a fat homo. Oh. She said of Asian people, I'd like to punch the next Asian person I see in the face.
Wow.
And even though they adjudicated it mildly, two state employees both said that she groped them and was otherwise sexually inappropriate with them. And while the speaker took away all of her committee assignments for a year, the truth is they whitewashed it. And frankly, I think Robert Garcia, notwithstanding the fact that he was once a Republican, and Mark, you and I were actually talking about this in a different context at the start of the show. When people have a change of mindset, and he has explained why he became a Democrat. It wasn't just a political positioning issue. It was because he changed. He came here. His parents brought him here from Peru. they were part of the Republican thing because I guess it was Reagan or Bush.
Yeah, we understand you. You have the mindset of your parents when you start to vote, and then you start to look at the issues, and your eyes open just like little.
And I thought it was legitimate.
Yeah.
And these days I rarely do media interviews about candidates. I just don't do that much now. I usually turn them down, or I do it. I do it off the record.
Well, I have a confession to make.
I did several interviews for him on the record, and I think that he's really a good guy, and I think she's amazingly obnoxious, and the fact that she didn't just come in second, she came in fourth. I mean, I don't know what the latest is because I haven't checked it in the last.
That proves there is a God in heaven.
She's 12.7%. So she is.
She's really she's
third.
She's
third.
Speaking of somebody that's
amazing, but it's a huge distance.
Can I get a word in edgewise here? I am the host of this particular hour.
Mark.
Yeah,
neither of us can hear you. We can hear each other.
You can't hear me. You can hear each other, but you're on a conference.
Now we can hear you
now.
A little better.
It's only your show, Mark. It's only your show.
Turn them off, Sam. I'll do the last 15 minutes by myself. No, I'm just kidding. But two things here. I have to do a little confession.
Sam, I know where you live.
I was just kidding. Anyway. No, I have a confession. I voted for Ronald Reagan way back in 1981. I was, my parents, they were Republicans, and they were Catholic Republicans.
Chris, take him off my Hanukkah list for Christmas list. He's done.
But very
he
shortly,
voted for Ronald Reagan. I'll never talk to him again.
But very shortly after that, I voted for Dukakis. I voted for Clinton. I voted for all of those guys. And so my puppy eyes opened, and that's what it is. In the last maybe 12 minutes of the show, we've been talking about California races and local races in San Bernardino and in Long Beach and in L.A. But I want to turn to the national scene for just a minute because, we have some pretty important things coming up very, very shortly as far as, who's in control of the United States Senate. Some kind of good news. And Iowa, they have closed primary. In other words, they don't have the top two ranked vote getters get, to the election. They have a Democratic primary and a Republican primary. Well, the good news is that the Democrat won handily Michael Franken with 86,000 votes, and he had a tough race. This is in Iowa, by the way. Abby Finkelauer got about 62,000 votes, and then Glenn Hurst got about 7,000 votes. But, Chuck Grassley, the Trumper in Iowa in the U.S. Senate, who's, election conspiracy and all that, he got 143,000, and then his opponent got 51,000. But when you total up the total number of Democrat votes who theoretically, now that Michael Franken has gone forward, will collect those Democratic votes, it's going to be a very, very tight race with a Democrat in favor in November if you just bring all those votes with you. It's going to be a lot of money in that race.
What I want to add to that, Mark, is, number one, Grassley is as old or older than Joe Biden, and when you listen to him talk, he sounds older than Biden.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's point one. Point two, the guy who won the Democratic primary, and I forget if he was if he was a fleet admiral or if he was an army general. He was one or the other. But this is a guy with a stellar military record. So we're not talking about, some San Francisco loony, lefty, liberal, who wants to take people's guns away. We're talking about a guy who served at least 35 years in the military if he was at that level.
Vice Admiral.
Command off.
I just looked it up. He was a Vice Admiral.
Vice Admiral.
Very
Vice
impressive.
Admiral. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so he had to be a Vice Admiral, he had to have served at least 30, 33 years minimum to get to that rank. And that's the kind of candidate that in a place like that wins, which is why the outcome in the Pennsylvania Senate primary on the Democratic side was a little bit surprising, except you had one candidate who had a lot of personality and was a good campaigner, and one who didn't, unfortunately, technically on paper was the better candidate. But on this note, Mark, I want to go back to one other thing. You had mentioned about statewide races that were so close in California. We were talking about the AG's race, the Attorney General's race.
Yes.
So Rob Bonta, who is an appointed Attorney General that most people never heard of because he represented a district in kind of in the Bay Area, but not San Francisco even, kind of the outside of San Francisco, the part of Alameda and such. He got 54.5% of the vote. The candidate that everybody thought was going to give him so much trouble was a woman named Anne Marie Schubert, who was a longtime Republican, was the district attorney of Sacramento County, who was calculating that she was going to run for AG, and she re-registered as a no-party preference, an independent voter. And out of 5 candidates, she ended up coming in second to last. She got 7.5% of the vote compared to Bonta's 54.5%. And that was the candidate that everybody was afraid could beat Bonta.
Yeah.
This is how these things go.
Mm-hmm.
Did she have money? Honestly, I never. Bonta was on TV. That's how I saw him.
She had plenty of Republican money.
So Bonta had
they all knew why she had become an independent. They understood that to run and try to win in California, that's what you do.
Well, turning back to the national scenes, there are 14 Senate races in the United States Senate up for grabs, and 21 Republican races up for grabs. But the narrow, slim one-vote majority with 2 Democrats that don't vote all the time Democrat, the power in the United States Senate, everybody's watching that. And as far as I could see...
Well, wait. Remember, we're 50-50. The only reason we have a one-vote majority is
the Vice
President breaks the tie.
Right. So, that being said, we're very slim majority there. 50-50, there is no majority. It's just the Vice President. Can't even refer to it as a majority. So, but the power is with the Democratic Party by 1 vote, which is the Vice President. It's a very delicate thing. But from as far as I can see, some Senate races across the nation, and it gets frustrating to try to find this information out when you're on the air all night long and you're not able to watch national news, and then you try to get on the internet, and the coverage on the internet is not good because Google keeps pointing you back to California races because they think you're from California. Well, I want to find out about national races, so you have to look at the Washington Post or the New York Times or maybe CNN or NBC. So it's very, very interesting with these Senate races. How they're kind of, we're going to, of course, California is one of the only crazy states to have this jungle primary ranked, who gets head. Now, you look at these Senate races, especially in the federal level, they're all Democrat and Republicans versus one another. But it looks like the numbers are kind of working for the Democrats right now. But all the Republicans have to do is pick up a seat or two, and the Democrats lose a seat or two, and we're not off to the races. Let's just put it that way.
Right? No. If the Republicans pick up one seat, that's all it is. That gives them the majority, right? Because right now we're 50-50. If they pick up one seat, they go to 51, we go to 49, and the vice president has no tie to break.
And Mitch McConnell becomes in power again.
Now we happen to be lucky in that there are nationally 6 or 7 seats that are really the ones that are in play. And of those, Democrats have tip-top candidates in 5 of the races. There are 2 that Democrats have mediocre candidates, but the Republicans are mediocre, so they could go either way. And if we pick up a seat, and there are a few seats that we could pick up, and we could well pick them up, then it may be a different ballgame. Look, the likelihood is, I hate to say this, but the likelihood is, no matter what happens with the way the inflation is, and the price of gas and the price of food, and it doesn't matter what the cause of it is, whether the cause is because Biden put so much money into the economy that saved so many lives. Let's be real. Okay, everybody's criticizing the money that he put into the economy, but it saved all those lives people who were out of work because of COVID, right?
And here's
child care it provided, everything that it did. But regardless, whatever the cause is
this thing on? Okay.
If we can get at least hold the Senate that's ours, then Biden's nominees, and especially his court nominees, can get through. And that is probably the most key thing. And I'm going to tell you something, and I'll say it on this show. And by the way, either or both, you're welcome to stay on.
And I'm going to talk just a minute for a second. Okay, I wanted to bring a point out before you go into this next diatribe.
Yeah.
You're going to let me talk? Okay.
Well, I wanted to just finish.
This is what I'm going to talk about, and that is that we have 2 Senate seats per state, but yet states like South Dakota and North Dakota have 2 Senate races, 2 Senate seats. Not necessarily all are up for election right now, but California has 2 Senate seats. So the imbalance of power right now, we're very fortunate that Montana, Wyoming, Nebraska, Texas, places like that don't have any Senate seats up for election right now. But, California has a Senate seat, but it's pretty safe. New York has a Senate seat. It's not so safe. Georgia has a Senate seat. Boy, that's going to be Warnock, and all that's going to be very, very, very difficult. Very difficult. Right now it's Warnock. So, when we get to this before the top of the hour, just, looking back at and what can we do to do this, I don't know. Constitutional change, but we've got to make some change so that representative by population is more prominent than representative by geography. Don't you agree? I think so. So, yeah, representative.
Well, this is the problem with how they design the system, right? I mean, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, Vermont, they have 2 senators, and California, Florida, and Texas, and New York, the biggest states in the country, have 2 senators.
Right. So if there's anything that our voters can get, and I'm going to wrap this up as how we begin it, in some motivation to get out and vote in November is these Senate seats and the control, and whether you want your reproductive rights, or that you ban AK-47s and AR-17s and 50 caliber bullets, and that doesn't mean you can't still have your guns, or school funding, or a whole wide range of things, and our democracy, and it doesn't turn into an oligarchy, then you got to get out and vote, people. And with that, Chris Robles, are you there?
I am. I'm here.
Do you have a closing parting statement before we close out the show?
I would agree with you. What we're at 10% last we checked on for this county, and I've just to kind of bring it back home for me. I'm here in Ontario, working on organizing the community around simple districting for the first time, so that council members actually represent the residents, the actual residents where they live, and even after the districts, it won't work unless people go out and vote.
Absolutely,
and that's the key. And
30 seconds, Eric Bauman.
Well, I'll just actually jump on what Chris said. We did this. We fought for this during my years as chair in the LA Democratic Party, and we managed to get about 9 of the small cities to change from no districts to district-wide. And the biggest difference that we saw was suddenly blacks and Latinos were getting elected. And, you want your elected officials to look like and to represent the people that they represent.
That's right.
And before we go off, Mark, and I know we're right at the end of your show, if you want to stay on with me and Professors Rona Blaker and George Blake, you're welcome, because the first half of my show we're going to continue talking about elections.
All right. Eric Bauman's next on the Uncommon Sense Democrat. I'm Mark Westwood signing off on KCAA, 1050 AM, 102.3, and 106.5 FM. Sam, take it away.
KCAA Loma Linda, 1050 AM, 106.5 FM, and now 102.3 FM.
AP News, I'm Tim McGuire. Today, an 11-year-old told Congress about smearing herself with a classmate's blood in the hopes a gunman wouldn't shoot her. In the recorded video, her father then asked,
"What did you do then when you put the blood on yourself?"
Just stay quiet, and then I got my teacher's phone and called 911.
What did you tell 911?
I told her that we need help and to send the police.
Mia Cerrillo says she's afraid to go back to school because she doesn't want it to happen again. Mia lost 19 schoolmates and 2 teachers in Uvalde, Texas on May 24th. During the hearing of the House Oversight Committee, Zanita Everhart talked about caring